So I thought I would just read from the story within a story. I love stories within larger works. I love them. I love the way that they can function as these little mirrors where you can kind of refract a lot of the themes in the larger book, and then that they can stand alone. And it's just fun to have a story told to you. So this is, there's a girl in the book, Osceola, who has kind of conveniently discovered in the wake of her mom's death that she can communicate with the dead. And I just figured, like, if you're like 16 on this isolated island in the swamp and there are not a lot of eligible bachelors, for sure you would use your Ouija board to make boyfriends. So she's done so. She's dating this guy, Louis Thanksgiving, this dredge man, who this kind of mysterious dredge washes up on their property, and it's haunted by his ghost. So her little sister, who's kind of credulous and on board with whatever in like little sister way, just wants to hear the story of his death, which I thought, like, if you're a ghost, that's kind of like the corsage you would give to your lady, your death story, or you're like pinning your varsity letter on her or whatever. So, and it's too long to actually really do the whole thing. I wouldn't make you suffer through that. So I've massaged it so there's like this bread bowl scoop in the middle. So you'll just have to pretend you come to really love and care about this ghost. Give me the benefit of the doubt for that middle section. So it's called The Dredge Man's Revelation. The dredge man had a name, Louis Thanksgiving Auchenbliss, but lately he preferred to think of himself as a profession. For the past 6 months, he'd spent each day and half the night pushing farther into the alien interior of the Florida swamp, elbow to elbow with 12 other crewmen, the muckrat employees of the Model Land Company. They were the human engine of a floating dredge, a 40-foot barge accompanied by 4 auxiliary boats, the wood barge, the water barge, the cook shack, and for sleeping, the houseboat. The dredge had a giant crane riveted to its deck and a dipper bucket that looked like the tiny cranium of a serpent poised high above the palm trees and the mangroves. The Model Land Company was digging a canal through the central mangle of the swamp, and the dredge clanged toward the Gulf amid blasts of smoke and winding cables, tearing up roots and rock, and excavating hundreds of thousands of gallons of bubbling soil. In sunlight and in moonlight, everybody on the barge had to work under veils of mosquito netting, and the weave of that finely stitched protection was what the word dredge man felt like to Louis. Like soft armor, a flexible screen. As a dredge man, Louis was no different than anybody on deck. And on the dredge, in this strange and humid swamp, every yellow morning was a new skin he could slip into. At 17, Louis was the youngest member of the crew. It was the height of the Depression, and sometimes the men turned to the past for distraction, talking about the girlfriends they'd left mooning after them in red diner booths in Decatur, their high school teachers, somebody's family store in Rascal Mountain, Georgia, their army stints, the dogs and the children still on terra firma, the debts they'd gleefully abandoned. Inside the suck of the other guy's nostalgia, Louis became almost unbearably nervous. "What about you, Lou?" somebody eventually asked. "How did you get washed down here?" "Oh, not much to tell," he mumbled. Very little of his childhood felt real anymore. In fact, the vast and empty floodplain that spread for miles in every direction around the dredge's gunnels seemed to mock the notion that a childhood had ever happened. 2 skies floated past them, one above and one below on the water, whole clouds perfectly preserved. "One thing about me, though," Louis said, coughing, trying like the other guys to turn his past into good theater. "One sort of interesting thing, I guess, is that I was born dead." "Well, goddamn it, Lou, you don't need to brag about it," Gideon Tom, the engine man, said. He laughed. "Born dead? Shit, son, everybody is."